So we are officially live now.
Excellent.
Yeah, so don't say anything you don't want your mom to hear.
I do have Friday off though, so I will sleep in on Friday.
Well, it's hard to, I have to imagine, because it's Wednesday. It's Bad Batch Day.
I haven't even seen it yet. I haven't had time.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to, I have to imagine, because it's...
I couldn't stay up for it because then I would literally be staying up till 2 a.m. and then getting like 45 minutes of sleep.
Yeah. I guess. That's just wild. Okay.
And then, like I said, I probably would have watched it this afternoon, but I knew I was gonna have to work on my car. It just turned into, a bigger project than it was gonna be, and now it's still not done. So that's gonna be tomorrow afternoon as well.
Yeah. I live in that space of this was a bigger project than it was supposed to be.
Oh, it always. I mean, it's one of those things. I knew that it wasn't going to be as simple as I thought it was going to be, because that's just the way things work.
Allison calls them my harebrained schemes. I start doing something and I've got half my office torn apart or whatever, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Well, I tried to do this one thing, and it turned into this other thing that I had to do first to do the one thing I wanted to do to begin with, and it just never ends. It never stops."
Yep, that is the way things work.
This is the way.
This is the way.
I guess we could talk that. I'm assuming you've seen the trailer. You were the one that posted about it yesterday.
Yes, I've definitely seen the trailer.
Okay.
I don't know if there's really that much to talk about.
There's not. Okay, glad we're on the same page there. It's like, it was a good trailer. I was hyped. I got all the good feelings, but also I was like,
exactly.
That this gives us nothing that we didn't already know. So we've basically already dissected this trailer for all intents and purposes. But I'm ready to go when you are.
Sure. Let's get our local recordings going.
Okay.
And
mine is going.
Me too.
All right. I will count down. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, go. It's funny. I was podcasting with Austin. Accidentally clapped on his podcast, which I felt weird about. But then whenever he starts, they clap basically, and accidentally monitored my own. Sorry if you hear me twice very briefly. They go like basically the clap is the last thing that happens before Austin starts going into the show. So we clap and Austin goes in. I'm like, whoa, I'm not ready. Whoa, slow down. Normally I get to clap and then, fart around for another 15 to 20 minutes. But in the interest of, honestly, in the interest of getting to the book, I'm not going to faff around for half an hour.
Seriously, don't worry about me. I'm fine.
No,
I know in your brain, you're like...
I was thinking about that, but also I was thinking just legitimately I want to talk about the book.
Yes, we do. And that's part of the reason I'm like, we got to do this.
Because I'm like...
strike while the iron is hot and the feelings are fresh.
Fine, Cole. Fine. I'm just something so...
So raw, isn't it?
I don't know, man. Anyway, we are live. I need to pull that over here. Stream's probably good. Pull that over here and monitor my waveforms. Sorry, I don't know why I'm narrating what I'm doing. Okay. Now, I believe it is time to go. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Okay, here we go. Wait, no. I was gonna say, do I do any sort of intro on the YouTube for this? I don't. Anyway, this is a live stream. It's been how long? It's not been that long since we've done this. Why can't I remember how to do it? Jesus. Anyway, okay. Now that I'm done yanking my audio interface everywhere, here we go. Listen up, library patrons, and welcome back to Obroa-Skai Walkers. I am one of your librarians, Ben, and I am joined by my fellow librarian, Cole.
Hey ho, here we go.
Finally. I say finally as though it weren't like my fault that we had been delayed the last 2 weeks.
Whatever. At least we hadn't already started the book, so it's like,
Yes,
no
yeah.
extra delays between chapters.
Hey, maybe some of you are out there are slow readers, and it just took you some time to get through those first 6 chapters or whatever. It wasn't 6, it was 3, right?
It was 3, but it was long.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking. It felt like it was. It felt like a lot more than.
Well, I
just
guess it
3.
was like a prologue in 3 chapters, so like 4, really.
Right, right. It's amazing how quickly everything is so obviously broken out of the gate in this book, but I'll wait till we get there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway, we've come back from our holiday break. We are excited is a word you could use to be diving into Order 66 by Karen Travis. I'm truthfully excited. I'm also just very sad. Even just within these first...
There's this quiet dread in the back of your brain. No matter how you fight it, it's just there.
Hi, Torch. Torch is chiming in to say that
hey.
He will be watching the replay later, but wanted to say hey.
Thank you.
We do stream these live on YouTube, and normally it's Monday nights. But as I said, delays do happen. It is Wednesday. So I'm going to do one of these. Maybe you should subscribe to us on YouTube, and then you get notified when we go live.
True.
Normally Mondays, but sometimes not. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you, Torch, for giving me the reason to bring that up. How have you been, Cole? I mean, we have already done the pleasantries, so I'm really concerned with how you've been in Star Wars. If you've been doing anything along those lines.
I mean, not a whole lot of Star Warsing beyond the book, Bad Batch, and the Mando trailer. I guess there's not really anything else going on. I mean, I got this little guy.
What is that?
It's Grogu with a Dark Trooper head. Which is pretty great.
I couldn't see the Dark Trooper head because I was like,
yeah,
you expect to see it one way, and when it's inverted, suddenly it might as well.
Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, see it now. See it now.
But aside from that, not a whole lot.
Cool.
I don't think I've got anything Black Series recently, so.
Cool.
Relatively quiet on all those fronts.
I've
good. Bad Batch has been good from what I've seen. I haven't seen the most recent episode yet.
The most recent episode, I will say, the most recent episode shocked me, because it's definitely not a groundbreaker like the Solitary Clone. That I don't know how you felt about that. I thought that was. Okay, yeah. On Skyhoppers, we were basically like, "Is this the best episode of the series to date?" And
it's quite possibly,
it might.
I'd have to go through and evaluate this first season because there were definitely some bangers in there.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
It's definitely like top 3 for sure.
Yeah, it's very good. This week was not that, but I will say I read the synopsis for this week and was like, really? I don't know if I'm gonna like that. It ended up being so much better than I thought it would be.
That's nice.
Can I spoil some minor casting?
I know kind of what it's about.
Can I spoil some casting for you?
Yeah, go ahead. I don't know what it is, but I've heard some rumblings. So
did you know that there's a droid named Teo?
And I've been hearing about the droid.
They cast Ben Schwartz to play Teo.
Oh, that's wonderful.
The most perfect. He's playing the Ben Schwartz character.
Oh, of course he is.
And it was
is he literally the worst?
Yeah, within the first 2, I didn't recognize his voice, but within the first 2 lines, I was like, I like this guy. I hope he sticks around. Well, but he's really good.
Well, being a droid, no matter what happens, he could come back.
That's true.
It's just droid nature.
He was great. He was really good.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that. That's great. I had heard rumblings that there was somebody famous cast in it, but I didn't know who it was. That's fun. That's really fun.
Very fun. I laughed so hard and said, "Oh no," when I found out who it was who they cast. But anyway, so
me and my roommates really like that actor. We like Parks and Rec, which he's a fun side character in that, and he's Sonic, and it's good stuff.
That's what I mean. It's like John Ralphio as a droid. I love it. But
It's so bad.
It is bad, but
Oh, that's awful.
you can't help but love it. I'm just
Uh,
I thought it was very good, very good. So yeah, this
is he a
episode,
racing droid?
yes,
So he's Sonic and he's oh
and
my
he
gosh.
and he's blue.
Of course.
He's
Of
blue.
course. Man, I'm gonna have to talk to my roommates about this. This is gonna be great.
So
I love
anyway,
this.
definitely this week didn't have the hard hitting like plot. It had some threads maybe that might that might come back later. But overall, still just a much better episode, a good episode, much better than I expected. And it's just kind of one of those, I don't.
Hey, not every episode has to be the big one, especially
Nope.
when you have a season of 16 episodes.
That's
There has to
true.
be some like filler stuff in there, and as long as it's fun and does some fun character stuff, they don't have to be crap
No, and I
to
think
be in filler,
And I think I like a lot of the Rebels episodes that are less impactful as well. And I'm starting to think that maybe my issue is not the less impactful episodes of these shows, because I mean, if you look at my track record for a lot of the other live action shows, those I've been, I think, high on a lot of them that were not the big ones. I think it's just Clone Wars. Some of the arcs, the less good arcs in Clone Wars, really feel like they drag, because I think they're arcs a lot of the time.
Yeah,
that's like,
yeah. I've said it before. I think that to me the biggest like overall problem I think Clone Wars has to me is like time management. Like
sure.
it doesn't know how to manage know whenever an episode just needs to be a single episode versus an arc, or even just like how many episodes an arc is. Because like there's some episodes like I think it's one of the big Maul episodes in season 5, where whenever like he takes over the crime syndicates and stuff, so much of that happens like one episode.
It's like, why?
And I'm like, but then there's 4 episodes of the droids, the famous infamous droids arc. I'm like, you couldn't have made that just like 2 and made this like 4 just to like build it out the good stuff, but
that's the thing. And that's one of the reasons.
Like, the Umbar arc, 4 episodes feels perfect.
It does. I would even argue the 4 episodes is a little long for that arc.
Maybe. Again, maybe.
A little.
It's one of the better managed ones.
It is,
yeah,
for sure. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
I agree. You could probably tighten it up into like a 3-parter that's just amazing.
I think it's like a 3. I think the ideal length is like 3.5 episodes, which,
Maybe just make it a 75-minute movie like the Bad Batch opening.
Exactly.
Maybe that would be perfect.
Fetmatics in our chat, hi Fetmatic, says George Lucas liked the droid arc.
That's fine.
It's
George,
like
that's fine.
I'm happy you're here to share that info, Fetmatic, but I didn't need you to tell me
I
that.
I totally believe that, and
it's got George Lucas written all over it.
And respect it, but that doesn't mean I have to love it too. So
I can also think that wizard's just a crazy old man. You know what I mean?
Precisely.
It goes both ways. Anyway, yeah, Bad Batch has been really good. I've actually been getting up to it again. I think I don't know if I've talked about it here. I finished Han Solo's Revenge. That book the book was good. It felt a little just meandery. It didn't really feel like it had as much of a focus as like Han Solo at Star's End did. Not bad. Just I think
Star's End's the one I remember the most.
Star's End was really good. I liked that one a lot.
Even if all of them are kind of a blur, but I could definitely, pick out more stuff from Star's End, I think.
They do feel like kind of a blur. And I don't know if it's just because I don't know what it is. Is it because they're so short? Because like they're foundational. You know what I mean? It's like I don't want to say they don't.
That's probably part of it for sure.
I don't want to say they don't link to anything else, because like things link to them. So retroactively.
Yeah, there's plenty of threads that pulled off of them, but they don't have any direct connective tissue because there wasn't anything to connect to beyond the movie.
Right.
So
The weird thing is, though, thinking back to I'm remembering correctly, this is between the Han Solo trilogy 2 and 3, correct? Or is it during 3?
It's during 3. There's like a series of chapters in 3 that Han's out of, and then each one of them like ends with a little like little
Right.
like bit with Han, like talking about the last adventure he had or whatever.
Right.
So so it's like, okay, this is where the Stars End happened. This is where Revenge happened. This is where Lost Legacy happened, and all the other characters are doing stuff during that time, which is fun.
Sure. Lost Legacy, I think, I'm looking forward to Lost Legacy. I think that one's going to be good. I just think that there's a lot of, like, I've talked a lot about, as I was growing up, I had a lot of awareness of these characters and these places and things that I didn't know anything about, due primarily to Essential Guides. Zin the Despot is a character that I have been curious about for ages. So I'm looking forward to getting a little more into that
Mm-hmm.
in
And
Lost
Lost
Legacy.
Legacy is the only one that came out after Empire too. I don't know if that
Interesting.
impacts anything. I don't remember it factoring in, but it is interesting to note because it came out August of '80.
It is.
So just
Okay.
a couple of months after Empire. So it's one of those things like Daly may not have even seen the movie at that point. Who knows? Depending on
Right.
how the writing versus publishing schedules would be, I don't really know how that would work.
Well, that's the thing too, because it wasn't like it is now, where it's like, okay, well, this series is beginning production now. We need to get this book starting. We need to get a first draft of this book by this point, because it ties into this, and it's gonna come out at the same time. Like, you've got all this coordinated media push, and back then it was like, yeah, sure, let Brian Daley write a Star Wars book. I don't know, like, write a Han
And
Solo
I know
book.
that like the tie-in media, like one of the things that they always push is that very rapid writing and publishing.
Right.
Like usually they have tight deadlines and that kind of stuff. So it's very possible that he saw it, wrote it, and got it published within that time, I guess. But I don't really know how the publishing industry works, especially back in 1980. So
Very true.
who knows? Who knows?
Anyway, the
I
man
do know
was,
that cool skull featured in Solo, which was really cool.
that was cool. Speaking of Solo, I finished Lost Legacy, or Han Solo's Revenge, and was like, what am I gonna read now? Because I'm reading no, I'm reading
Oh, right. I think you mentioned this.
reading Order 66, and I'm like, well, I read the 3 chapters that Cole allowed me to read this week, so I guess I have to wait until we can record again to read that any further. So
I ration you for your own safety.
So I looked at my shelf, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to read a Legends book. I'm going to take a break. I'm going to take a break from Legacy of the Force, and I'm going to read Most Wanted. And so far, Most Wanted is really good. I'm like
I really liked Most Wanted.
I'm like 2/3 of the way through it. I'm like, this book had no right to be this good. Yeah. Of course, that is not a slight at Ray Carson or anybody who worked on this book. It was.
I think that was their first book, wasn't it? Their first Star Wars.
I think so.
I think.
One way or the other. If it was, strong debut. Most Wanted is, of course, the Han Solo, or the Solo movie young adult tie-in novel. And if I have to say, it definitely reads like a YA novel, which is not inherently a bad thing. I think it reads less like a YA novel than the adult novel Convergence does from the High Republic. So, make of that what you will. I do kind of feel like I've talked about this here and then on Skyhoppers as well. Speaking of the High Republic, this second phase is just not grabbing me the same way. It's not. I'm a lot of the way through the Battle of Jeddah, and I'm still like, I'm getting kind of over the whole alternate Force traditions thing. Because I feel like, and this could be a thing in Legends as well. Like, I've not dug into that deeply. But they're spending a lot of time on Jeddah, of course, in the Battle of Jeddah. And there are so many of these other sects that literally look at the Force as a religion. And this is not an anti-religion thing, but for me personally, I've never looked at the Force as a true religion, and I always think it's really weird in A New Hope whenever it's called that.
New Hope stand that you are.
You what?
New Hope stand that you are.
Yeah. So it just, I don't know. It's not that I don't like it. And there was something that happened that was an emotional moment that hit me today. Like I was listening to it. It was good. But it's not reaching the highs of the first wave or the first phase. The first phase I thought was so good, and phase 2 has just still been so insular. And at this point, I'm 3 pieces of media in, whereas the phase 1 started with Light of the Jedi and Into the Dark, and those were both, to me, stand out, like both very good books. So it's not that there's anything wrong. Like I'm still fully here for the High Republic ride, and I want to see where phase 2 is going, but the works themselves are not clicking with me quite the same way as phase 1 did. It just feels like we are just feels like it's taken a long time to get where it's trying to go, where I want it to be. But that said, Battle of Jeddah is still good. I'm glad they're doing these audio productions still. And I will let it be known, I did pay to support this one. Just because I want them to keep doing these, and I want them to know that I care. And also, that's generally my rules. I will buy the thing once, and I can't buy this any other way, So it's
well, I mean, there's going to be a published version of it at some point, but it doesn't really support the same thing necessarily.
No, it doesn't. And that's another thing too that I think, regarding specifically the writing of the Battle of Jeddah, I know that George Mann has written a couple of the books that skew younger for the High Republic, or is writing. No, I think he's the one that wrote the fables, myths and fables.
Yes, myths and fables, and the dark. Yeah. The dark version of that.
Yeah. I haven't read that one, but the Myths and Fables was good. So like this is nothing against George Mann. I liked that, and I liked that for what it was. I feel like the Battle of Jeddah is written kind of simplistically. It feels like at a more of a middle grade. Not quite middle grade, but like more of a young adult kind of style of writing, whereas, Tempest Runner just felt kind of more believable. I don't know. I don't know what that is. That could just be taste. That could be taste. And George Mann, if you ever hear this, I feel like I always do that every time I mention. I kind of say, and I'm not a huge fan of something that an author's done. I have to give the disclaimer. It's nothing personal. This, like the story, I'm still into the story. It's just I feel like some of the dialogue and the writing, I'm just like, it wasn't. That kind of stood out to me as kind of like when I was watching The Rise of Skywalker for the first time. I'm here for that movie, but there were definitely some lines that I was like,
ooh,
that stood out. Yeah, that hit a little weird.
That was in the final draft.
It's like that hit a little weird, didn't it? So you could like something and still criticize something. I think that's fair.
Absolutely true.
But so yeah. Anyway, Battle of Jeddah. I'll be finishing that up probably in the next few days. It's been good. I'm feeling the call of the Old Republic. But I'm still at a point where if I'm at my computer playing a game, I'm probably playing Arma because I'm sick. And if I'm not, and even then, that's like only 33% of my gaming time, because the other 66% is still spent on Pokemon, because I am, as I said, sick. I'm so close. I have like 4 more Pokemon to catch before I have the dex full. I'm so close. I'm so close.
How many Pokemon are in the dex for that one?
400.
Man, I've never done a full dex for any of them.
It's really easy in this. I won't say it's really easy in this game. It's still an accomplishment, but it's so much easier because you can see the Pokemon in the overworld and bump into the ones that you want instead of So you still have to get them to spawn and do all that stuff. But
instead of doing the dice roll, run around the grass.
Yeah. That said, though, I do think it's very clever that they made the Pokemon as close as they could to like actual size. So there are some Pokemon that are really small, and you don't see them when you're riding on your mount through the tall grass going really fast.
Nice.
So it's like, that's a random encounter. Damn it, they got me.
That's fun.
It is fun. But they'll put out some DLC for this game, and I will be behind again and have to catch more. But I'm okay with that because I'm still thoroughly enjoying my time with it. But that's not Star Wars.
I can transition us if you want us to.
Please.
I've got a fun transition. So I was looking at Ray Carson. So the Most Wanted was the first Star Wars novel they wrote, but they did 2 short stories before that. They did Hear Nothing, Say Nothing, See Nothing, whatever from the Canto Bight,
And the red one.
and the red
The
one,
red one.
which transitions us into the Mandalorian trailer.
It does. Hang on. I want to take a second. I want to take a second to acknowledge the red one and how good that story is. I
I don't remember like loving that one. I know that was a lot of people's one of their favorites.
That doesn't shock me.
I don't know if it hit that great to me.
That doesn't shock me.
Yeah.
It seems like one of those stories that we would not see eye to eye on.
I don't remember like disliking it.
Yeah,
like there were stories in that collection I did dislike. but
when you get 40 stories together, you can't like them all.
Exactly.
Right?
A short story collection by a bunch of different authors is always gonna have hits and misses.
It is.
But you're probably always gonna have some hits too. So
yes.
On balance.
Anyway,
but yeah,
Mandalorian
Mando trailer. Is there much to say? I don't know if there's much to say, but
no, and it's like I don't want to make it seem like it wasn't a good trailer, but it kind of in a lot of ways felt like the teaser trailer again. Like I don't want major spoilers from my trailers or anything. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm going for here. But it just kind of, it's like, okay, cool, it's the Mandalorian. There are more Mandalorians. He and Bo-Katan are at odds. I will say, I don't remember this from the teaser trailer, and I rewatched it on Monday night because I was trying to find, I didn't know if the real trailer had dropped yet. So I had searched it on YouTube, and I'm like, yeah, I'll watch the teaser trailer again.
Forced me to watch an old trailer.
Yeah. I don't remember this being in there, but Din seems to make reference. He says some Mandalorian things, some things that a Mandalore might say.
Yeah, no, to me that's probably the highlight of the trailer.
Yeah,
is the first bits of dialogue where he's talking like, I don't remember the exact words, but he's like, what do we stand for as a people, and what direction are we gonna go? That kind of stuff. Is like, ooh, interesting.
It really is, and I want to say this, and I don't want it to sound negative because it's not a critique or a comment on the creators and the people writing this show. It's just, I think, as a nature of of television. It's just, it can't go as deep into things as I'd always want it to. I think there's a lot of room for really interesting nuance that kind of on things that are like, oh, you're going to go to Mandalore and you're going to repent your helmet sins. And then he comes back to the armorer and Paz Vizsla is like, actually, I'm Mandalore now. You can't stop me. And I think there's a lot of really interesting things there. And I'm not saying we won't get into that because obviously the armorer, Paz Vizsla, maybe a little less important, but the armorer is a character that people really like. And
clearly sticking around. He's in several bits of this, so that's cool. I'm glad they're keeping him as a character, and hopefully they develop him because, he started off as, just the big guy, but he's already had some stuff. I mean, the whole showdown in Boba Fett was really great.
Yep, it was.
Over the Darksaber. That was really cool.
It was, because I'll never understand why they buried that episode in there, but
like why it's there and the fact that it's there notwithstanding, it's really good.
I shouldn't have even brought it up. Because it's gotta stop.
That's the pall hanging over everything for me, unfortunately.
I gotta stop beating that dead horse, but
yeah. We're on the same page there. Everyone knows where we stand. It's fine.
But I think the season for me, I don't even know because this is what I mean. The trailer was not bad by any means. I'm excited, and now I've got all these thoughts running through my head now that I'm thinking about it again. It's like, what is Din and Grogu's relationship gonna look like? Because it's very clear that Grogu has, grown some as a Force user. And so I'm curious to see where that goes. Luke's ultimatum notwithstanding, I personally don't necessarily think that's the cardinal sin that a lot of the online discourse makes it out to be, but I also think it is kind of a weird it is kind of a weird choice. But you know, the canon portrayal of Luke Skywalker has been a little odd.
A little bit inconsistent.
Oh, you see, you're cross-pollinating. You weren't even on that
sorry.
podcast.
I was waiting for an opportunity to drop that. I haven't even listened yet. I just saw it in the Discord.
I know. You weren't there. No, and I don't mean to say I don't like it, because we've gotten some good Luke stuff, and, you know, Mando and Book of Boba Fett. I just think that it's hard because, you know, as much as I love The Last Jedi, Rian Johnson put them in a spot of like, well, we have to figure out how Luke got here, how Luke gets on Octo, and how all of this happens. And well,
how his life leads him to that point.
Exactly. In order to do that, it's like, well, he needs to fall back into Jedi orthodoxy, and he needs to, you know, all of the, here I am saying I don't think the Force is a religion, and use terms like Jedi orthodoxy. But you know, he's got to fall back into that, and I think I do. Listen, this is not an anti-Ahsoka statement. I do think there could be something very interesting about Ahsoka being the one who is like, oh, well, you know, I'm no longer a Jedi, but I was gonna come back and be a Jedi again. Let's be real. Before Order 66, like, I was gonna come back, so I'm kind of a Jedi. Do what I say. Not that she would do that, but Luke would look to her and say, and she's very clearly wary of attachments, whereas Rey seems to be just fine. It gets to be good and still have attachment. So, you know, it's weird how it's all kind of like cyclical, where it's like people are complain. It's, you know, the Jedi in the prequel can't have attachments, and that makes me not like the Jedi. And then it's like, well, now Luke figured out a way that, oh no, they can't have attachments, and now Luke is like saying, oh no, actually that was not, I shouldn't have done that. That was no good. We need to go back to the way old things were. And it's just like,
the Ouroboros of the Jedi.
It is, and it's frustrating because it's like, now I'm thinking about it, and it's like, well, I think there's a lot of things that, on which J.J. Abrams and the Force Awakens creative team took the wrong lessons from the OT and the PT. You know, it's like, so I think that is just another one of them that's kind of spun out. And as much as, like I said, as much as I like The Last Jedi, it put us in a weird spot for Luke going forward. So anyway, kind of beside the point, I'm curious to see where Din and Grogu end up.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think the thing I saw the most chatter online about was the little flash of, you know, further extending the Grogu flashback, which whenever I first saw it, honestly, I thought it was the same bit of footage from the flashback, but it's not, but it's very similar.
Right.
And that this one was more than like facing down a door that looked like it was being cut open, perhaps by a lightsaber, so maybe another Anakin show up. Maybe it's just the clones. Maybe it's somebody entirely different. Who knows? But it looks like it's the same Jedi, I think. The same three protecting him, but it's hard. It's hard to say because, you know, it's literally the backs turned, you know, no faces.
That's one of those things that's like, if you're gonna put Anakin here, I understand you had him dressed up for, you know, you had him for Kenobi. Like, I'm gonna need a compelling reason as to how Grogu gets away from Darth Vader.
Yeah,
you know, like, and
that's the thing that makes me think that it's probably not.
Yeah, it's a fake out. Yeah, because I don't want to be that kind of person.
You're supposed to think when you're watching it, and then it doesn't happen. Oh,
yeah, okay.
And then we get our answers to how he survived or how he got away, whatever it is, and hopefully it'll be satisfying.
I'm almost a little disappointed with the fact that Grogu is a youngling. I was hoping for something a little more Dark Empire-esque, something a little weirder, you know, that he was a clone of Yoda or something strange like that.
Yeah.
Because it's just, I don't know.
Tying him directly into the Order definitely, like, puts more restrictions on it.
It does. It feels like there's less magic behind it. There's less kind of there's less kind of whimsiness to it. Whimsy to it, because it's like,
okay, it's also just one of those things that kind of raises questions like, wait, so this guy was at the Jedi Temple and people knew about him, and
That's what I mean. It's like it grounds everything. Whereas before, you get to ask these questions like, well, where did he come from? Like, how did he get here? And you could obviously still ask, like, how did he get to Navarro or not, or Arvala 7? You know, you can still ask that question, but yeah, it's just more. I kind of liked the mystery, and every time I see him, I'm just like, oh god, are they gonna name his species? Are they gonna name his species? Are they gonna do it? I really don't want them to do it.
I don't think they will.
They probably won't. Especially because it seems like Dave has sometimes has respect for things George wanted in like the weirdest ways. He's like, oh yeah, I would never. It's like, okay, you'll do this, but you won't name Yoda species. All right. Anyway, anything else? I think the Mando trailer is like, it's compelling. It makes me want to watch it. I can't wait till March, which is
not
soon.
a whole lot to discuss. Even though we did discuss a good bit of stuff there, there's not a lot to discuss in it.
Yeah.
Beyond, excited. Yay!
Excited.
Can't wait.
Yay,
can't wait for it to show up. I'm up for way more like Mandalorian lore in canon, and it seems like they're pulling some stuff from like the Legends depictions and stuff. No, Mandalorians in canon is so weird because it's like you have Clone Wars, which is like the introduction of all of it, really.
Yeah.
Which is like as far from the way the Legends depicted it as it could have been. But then nearly everything since then has been like clawing it back in a weird way. It's like, we realize we made a mistake there and we need to turn it around.
Right, and it's like
it's like how it feels in a weird way. It's like I would respect it more if you just committed to it, I guess. But
I kind of am there with you in that I don't think they need to stick with it, like double down. It's like, no, Mandalorians are, a peaceful people. Like after the Clone Wars, they never went back to their ways.
Yeah, no.
Like,
I'm not saying that either, but
okay. But
it's just weird looking at it. It's like, it really feels like they're like, oops.
Yeah, there needs to. I would like to. Because I am very into the idea of the Mandalorians having this government, this period of like, no, the constant war thing is not working out. We're fractured as a people. Like, we need something different. And Satine shows up and she puts a bunch of a lot of like public works programs and funds education and does all these good things. And then Death Watch, we're forced to root for Death Watch. And but then maybe they just can't maintain that. They can't fight who they are as a culture after the fall of, the Republic. And I think it's just one of those things they should embrace. Like you said, just kind of stick with it, embrace it, that this happened. And it was this thing that you could build some really interesting world building and lore around within the canon while acknowledging that happened. But now the Mandalorians are here for one reason or another. And I guess the explanation is that it's the Empire. And I buy that. But I don't think we need to never talk about Satine ever again. This is what I'm saying. Yeah.
It is weird how that's like doesn't come up, even though we literally have Bo-Katan here. It's your sister.
Well, we'll see, because now obviously she's in the throne room. Like, there's room for that now, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Because she was, at the end of the day, kind of a minor character in the last season. I think she's going to be a much bigger focus going forward.
Yeah. She's only won like 3 episodes.
2 or 3,
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we did get some information about the directors for Mando season 3 as well.
Yeah, I didn't see them though.
Rick Famuyiwa is back, thankfully.
Yes.
And so is Bryce Dallas Howard and Carl Weathers.
Carl
Weathers.
The little engine that could. No. I am so glad that Grief Karga is still around. Did we even talk about the fact it looks like the Mandalorians are attacking Navarro?
To me, it looks like Navarro got attacked and they're coming in to defend it. Maybe that's kind of the vibe I'm getting from it, but it could be.
I think it looks like yours makes more sense.
Because it is Paz Vizsla is one of them.
Yeah.
So maybe they are coming in to attack for some reason. I don't know why they would, but I'm hoping that maybe that's like a later in the season thing, and Mando's like rallied them maybe.
Sure. And then it's not just some kind of like early season kind of throwaway episode that's like
Because we have the shot before that, or in the trailer also with with Carl Weathers, Grief Karga in his magistrate,
Yeah,
regalia, and like place looks awesome.
it does.
Like it's thriving.
It does.
And then it's sad to see it get wrecked. Like the statue's been destroyed, and it's like, oh dang it, guys, you just had this place looking great, and they got wrecked. So
Yeah. Okay.
hard to say.
Vetmatic's saying the Mandos are probably helping Navarro. So I'll defer to you two. I think you're both right. That makes a lot more sense.
Either one of them is very possible.
Sure. I just I don't
Your
know.
instinct was like the Mandos are bad.
Yeah, that was my first thought. I just am wondering. I mean, Din probably would have had to rally them, right? Because I mean, my assumption from Book of Boba Fett is that the Armorer and Paz Vizsla are alone, and they
That's definitely the vibe. It seems like, or at the very least, it's a very small sect.
Yeah, exactly. There's like nothing. There's nothing left. They were wiped out on
Well,
Navarro.
There's that. Yeah. We had a bunch of them on Navarro before, but that was before the Empire came and wiped out the rest of the covert. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, that makes sense. That it's basically just them, and they're in a rebuilding phase, I guess.
Right. So to me, granted, it depends on how much time has passed between seasons, I guess.
It's true. It seems like at least a decent bit of time because, like I said, Navarro's like prospered, so
Right.
it feels like a decent amount of time.
I don't know. We are saying
it's so hard to say because our main characters are a guy that wears a mask all the time and a being that lives hundreds of years.
literally no
What are you
way.
supposed to judge it off of?
It's not like, oh, Din's got a new haircut or Grogu's taller. It's like, nope, they are.
Is that a new paint chip on the armor?
They're literally exactly the same. Don't even get me started on the paint on the armor and the fact that there is none. Because to me,
well, I'm holding out hope that once he's like defined himself, we're gonna get armor. We're gonna get painted armor.
There's nothing like
sick.
He cuts quite the figure right now. Don't get me wrong. That armor is sick. But to me, I
still kind of prefer the original look. Even though it's like bland, at least it's more unique than just all silver.
Right, and the silver is cool, the chrome is cool, but you and I both want to see colors. We both want to see colors. I just want to see.
I don't even mind if silver is still like the predominant color.
Right.
I just want like some accents on it,
I just see these.
Like I was still up until the destruction of the Razor Crest. I was like, give it some yellow accents so it looks like the Razor Crest. It'd be pretty sweet, right?
Yeah.
Or even now he's got the Naboo Starfighter with still has some yellow accents. So
still do it.
To me, it feels right to me.
Oh, I don't know. Especially seeing it's like going into Bad Batch and seeing their new armor in season 2. I'm just like, redesign everyone every season. Every season, everyone gets a redesign, please. But I don't know.
Because you can't even tell he's been in a fight because his armor is just perfect.
I know.
All the time.
I know. Also, we can assume Boba Fett gets the dent in his helmet from Cad Bane, right?
I think it's fair to assume that at this point.
Seeing Boba Fett's helmet is more than likely made of Beskar, right? Is that where we're led to believe?
Again, yes, I think that's fair to assume.
Okay. We've seen Din tank a lot of blaster fire. What is Cad Bane packing that he
I feel like it had to have been like, maybe it was a Beskar slug or something.
I truly...
He was like trying to kill Boba and knew that's something he needed something special, maybe.
Yeah, because something that popped into my head. I was like, my God, Din's armor is untouched. And Boba Fett's got
I kind of think that Din's armor is like purest of pure Beskar.
Sure.
Whereas maybe Boba's is like a less refined or less pure. It's more of like an alloy.
Okay.
That's still quite good, but definitely not as up to snuff.
That's believable. Or, if you want to buy into him having, I guess, at that point in time, it's even less likely that he would have replacement. I'm trying to think of he's got multiple sets in Legends of his armor.
In Legends, he definitely had multiple sets. And at least for a long time, it was not Beskar.
Right, just Durasteel.
He eventually does end up with Beskar, which is awesome. You'll get to experience that at some point relatively soon.
Okay.
But yeah.
So here we are saying, oh, made a trailer. No, not that special. And then you spend
Here we talk about it,
25 minutes. So yeah.
you always know that's gonna happen.
I know.
But it is also like mostly stuff that's not in the trailer. But
Yeah. So before we get into the book and before we get into our random article, I remembered, thankfully, that we have an email. Someone we've not heard from in a while. Our buddy Mike. This was back on Christmas Eve, so apologies for not getting your email until now. But
have we recorded since then?
no, I think we recorded
Okay.
before Christmas. Yeah, like we didn't. I don't think we forgot it. I think literally we just have not recorded. But anyway, email reads. Guys, just finished the interlude episode. Was hoping Rule of Two would be next, but I guess being a Star Wars fan involves a lot of hoping for things that don't come to pass. Seriously though, thanks for another great year of episodes and other content. Hope you both have an awesome Christmas and New Year's, and of course, Life Day. I've probably shared this with you before, but since I can't remember things anymore, one of the joys of being a parent to a grade schooler, I wanted to mention that nearly every Christmas season for who knows how long, I either reread or re-listen to the original Thrawn trilogy. What better way to feel the spirit of joy than to reunite with all the awesome characters that Tim Zahn created for us now over 30 freaking years ago. Anyway, if you guys have, he says we can get back to him if we want to. This is how we're getting back to you, Mike. All the best, Mike. Well, Mike, thank you for your email. Again, apologies on taking a while to get back to you. I will say that is a fantastic holiday tradition.
Indeed.
Those books don't get old. It's been a few years since even we hit them, wasn't it?
I can find out real quick.
Like 2018, 2019, I think.
Let me see.
Maybe 2020. I don't remember. Well, one way or the other. It's been a couple years, and I'm already feeling like, do I just want to go back to those?
Well, it's definitely been a little bit because I don't have it on this computer. I don't have the files on this computer, so I was on my old computer.
So, I don't know.
Let's see here.
Maybe it is about time. Just go back, because that would just continue my tradition of rereading Legends books I've already read instead of moving the timeline forward out of fear of running out of new Legends to read.
So we finished The Last Command May 12th, 2020.
A lot going on.
Coming up on 3 years.
Good Lord. We're coming up on 5 years as a podcast.
Yeah, I saw that earlier. I was like, oh my gosh.
Can you believe that?
I feel so old.
So old, like just, this thing that grew out of just an offhanded comment in the Skyhoppers Discord. Like, oh, let's do a Legends podcast.
Here we are.
Okay. And
look at us now.
Many episodes, including one very awkward and disjointed one to begin with. Later.
Yeah, no.
But anyway, thank you again, Mike, for your email. If you want to email us, you can get a hold of us at Obroa-Skai Obroa-Skywalkers @gmail.com. And it might take us a couple weeks. We will always read your email on the show, unless you specifically state you don't want us to for some reason, in which case one of us will get back to you another way. That said, now that we've got Mike's email over and done with, I have a very brief article from the archives for this week.
Okay, wait, before we do this, there's one other thing I just remembered about.
Okay.
You posted in the Discord asking about Tuvix.
I did.
Did you actually go to the statue and see all this?
I walk past the statue like every day. I walk past the statue all the time.
I love that.
I see. For those who don't know, Bloomington, Indiana, where I currently reside and was born and have lived my entire life, is where Captain Janeway from Voyager, Star Trek Voyager, is from in Star Trek, which is
it is the future birthplace.
The future birthplace, exactly. And, Bloomington is kind of a weird city, so we've got a statue commemorating the future birth of Captain Janeway along the Beeline Trail, which is kind of a thoroughfare that moves, it's a foot trail that moves through a lot of downtown. And I walked past it the other day, saw a bunch of signs, something about Tuvix and he wanted to live, and these very things that I'm like, I don't know what any of this is. I don't know what any of this is.
It's so funny. It's so funny. This is the thing. I was wondering, like, did all this just show up randomly one day, or?
Yep. Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I'm looking up right now to see if was like maybe the anniversary of the episode or something.
I got a little bit of context from one of our Skyhoppers patrons. But I still am kind of like, half in on it.
Yeah. Just give me 1 second. I'm trying to find the air date for it just because I'm curious.
Some of the signs read, Justice for Tuvix. It was murder. He wanted to live. Stardate 49655.2 49678.4.
Okay, so its original air date was May 6th, 1996. So there wasn't like the anniversary or anything. That is really weird. Okay, so I'll try to give you the short of it, so it's not egregiously long. This is an infamous episode of Voyager, but I think it's actually a great episode, almost entirely because of the conversation around it and the fact that it's endured this long and people care about it this much. Like nearly any conversation about Voyager will lead to a discussion about Tuvix at some point. So it is endured, and that makes it a really interesting question. So what happens in the episode is there's a transporter accident, which is a classic Star Trek trope. It happens all the time, but this accident merges Tuvok and Neelix, two of the main characters of the cast. It merges them into a single being. Tuvok, Neelix, Tuvix.
Is that how that works?
In this episode it is. And it is an entirely new being that's like a mixture of the both of them, played by a different actor. And it happens, and when it first happens, they don't have a way to reverse it or anything. And he ends up living with the crew for like, I think at least several weeks, maybe a few months. And turns out he's actually like better at both their jobs than they ever were. And he's like actually great, and everyone loves him. And then
I don't like where this is going.
And then they discover a way to undo it. And he doesn't want to do it. And Janeway orders it to happen, which kills him but restores Tuvok and Neelix.
Yeah, I'm seeing.
And that's the controversy. Is like everyone's like that was murder.
on this sign, there's the Rip Tuvix sign. We have hashtag Court Martial Voyager, hashtag Janeway as a killer, hashtag It was murder, Voyager's crew was complicit. Yeah, it's just like
listen, it's intense. It's an intense thing, and like it's treated seriously. Like when it happens, it is treated. I mean, it's a single episode thing, and it doesn't really like come up again later or anything because it's not a serialized show, really. But it is treated seriously, and like the doctor on the cast, he's my favorite Star Trek character, basically, Robert Picardo. He's a holographic doctor. He refuses to do it. Like he's like, I won't do this Hippocratic oath, do no harm. So Janeway has to like press the button herself to do the thing, and so it's a pretty intense and serious
very intense
thing. And and like I said, the conversation has endured since then. Like you can go on the Star Trek subreddit or any place where there's discussions about Voyager, and it always comes up, and there's people that have very strong feelings about it both ways. And to me, it's like there's not a right answer, in my mind at least, because this thing happened, this accident happened, and if they could have undone it immediately, there would be no question about it.
Sure.
But because they all like lived with him and got to know him, and then he's like didn't want it to happen, it's like, well, that's it just becomes sticky.
It does.
It becomes a very sticky, questionable thing, and I think that's really interesting. It's a really like gray thing that happens, and it's like at the end of it, you're like, I don't know about that, guys.
Well, hey,
So
I've seen firsthand that Star Trek isn't afraid to get a little gray. Those episodes showed us of Deep Space Nine at Celebration with I remember the story, but the characters' names are
Yeah.
out of my head.
I mean, a lot of the characters in it are just, single episode characters too. So,
Right.
but yeah, it's, yeah. So that's Tuvix. It's a good episode. You should watch it if you want to, experience the horror and the.
I probably will. I'll probably find it because that's just
And
that.
it's in the second season, I think. So it's a pretty early episode too.
Okay. Now, is Voyager one of the ones that people like or don't like?
It's fairly well regarded, I think.
Okay.
Like TNG and DS9 are definitely like the two high points most people talk about. So Voyager's kind of like third fiddle, if you want to call it that.
Okay, because that's kind of what I think of it as. Is like it's not as liked as some of the others.
Yeah, it's tough. Like I really like Voyager, but I don't think it's as good as either TNG or DS9. But like I said, the Doctor is one of my favorite characters. Period. I love him. Robert Picardo is an amazing actor, and they give him tons to do. But part of the problem with the show is that he gets tons to do, and a couple of other characters get tons to do, and are really well developed. And a lot of the other characters kind of just are there and don't get very much to do. And then when they do, it's not very interesting. So it's like, as an ensemble, it's definitely not near as strong.
Sure.
And it's way more like TNG than DS9 as far as like they're on a spaceship going through the galaxy. Every episode is basically self-contained, with the exception of like some two-parters, and there is the ongoing story of them being lost way out in space, but it also isn't nearly as serialized as that could be.
It's kind of a bummer because that to me sounds very.
It's a good premise, and they do good stuff with it, but it's a 7-year series, just like the other two shows, and
Yeah. Anyway,
sorry for the Star Trek divergent, but
no.
I remember mentioning I was going to discuss it with you, and I was like, I've got to get it in there before we forget about it.
I'm glad I have the.
So justice for Tuvix. However you feel about it.
How do you feel about it?
Like I said, I'm like, I don't feel there's a right answer, but I kind of like, it's a 2-for-1 deal, and it's hard to it's hard to like break it down to a numbers game, but that's,
It sounds like you do think there's a right answer. You won't let yourself think there's a right answer, though.
Yeah, it's like I genuinely understand why people have such strong feelings about it. Sure. And the thing is, like, it's a lot of it is credit to the actor they get that plays this merged character. He's really, really good, and so you really are sold on this guy. Oh, this guy's actually really great. And then at the end, when he's like, it's like, no, don't kill me. Like, oh no.
It's like you never watched Doctor Who, did you?
No, I didn't.
Oh, it's like when David Tennant spends the entire his catchphrase through his seasons or Allons-y, let's go. And at the end, right before he regenerates, he says, I don't want to go. And it's like, disgusting. How dare you? Yeah, just
you're right in the feels there. Yeah.
Having a good actor will change everything.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I said about the Doctor. He's a great actor. Whenever they give him stuff to do, he just chews it up, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I looked at. I definitely seen him in stuff. And yeah, I think I even knew who you were talking about before I looked him up. I think I knew I'm sure you've mentioned it before. Anyway, random article. Are we ready? Do we have any other Star Trek divergences?
I mean, if you want me to, I will.
No. I think we're okay. This one, thankfully, is pretty brief. This article is entitled "Rocket Grass," and it's not what you think it is. Rocket grass was a plant native to Ocean 2. This article is a stub about a plant, root, or flower. You can help by expanding it. I love that there's a specific stub marker for that. And this is sourced from exactly one place, the Truce at Bakura sourcebook. It is actually in German as well. Over on Jedipedia.net, which it looks like is a, I think I've run across this before. Maybe it's a German Star Wars wiki. I'm going to investigate that a little bit. Maybe I'll report back a little next week. But yeah, rocket grass, not much to it. It's a plant, literally a stub. But
Mhm.
hey,
Oh,
they can't
I looked
can't
up
all be winners.
I did like a tiny bit of digging. So it's the plant. It's from the certain planet. Let's see. Yeah, from Usian 2. So Usian 2 was the Outer Territory world, and it was home to the predator Irashtash, which had these giant teeth.
Okay.
And these teeth were part of a collection that Nereus had. Nereus. And he
Okay.
bragged about them at one point. So that's the connection back to the book.
Okay. I love West End games so much.
So fun.
I love that it's not even a. The Arashtash, however, is an equatorial herbivore. Its huge bluffing teeth are not even used to gnaw down its primarily food. It's
Yeah,
primarily.
because he claimed they were from a like exotic predator, but they're actually from this herbivore.
Now,
It's
Nereus,
fun.
Nereus is the actual bad guy, right?
I think that's right.
Because there's the
It's been a
other
long
one.
time since I've
It's
read
been
the
a long
Truce
time
of
since I've
Bakura.
read it too. Because there's also the other guy who's not actually bad, or he ends up being like, oh, what is his name? Oh wait, no. He might be the. I think he's the good one. It's Admiral Ivpicus. Is he the bad one? Because Ivpicus, I don't think is the good guy.
You're diving too deep into it. I don't remember the specific.
I just know that there is a no wait, that's the. Sorry, I'm getting too deep in this. What I know from the Truce of Bakura is there's an Imperial who's willing to work with the New Republic to fight off the Searook, and there's an Imperial who's not. And I know
It sounds like he's actually the bad guy, based on the little like bit in the paragraph for his death. It sounds like he was bad, so
okay,
I'm
and
gonna go with that.
Oh, okay, Gariel Captason is Luke's Callista for this book.
Yes.
Jord Captason is the Prime Minister, so he's an Imperial, but he's not the bad guy. Captason, I think, Captason is the good guy, and I think
Nereus is the bad guy.
I think it is Captason's. There's like a son or something who shows up in the New Jedi Order as the head of the garrison there. Oh man, I don't know. I'm getting.
We're
sorry.
deep in the weeds here.
I'm getting.
I'm sorry I drug us into this. I didn't mean to.
We need to start talking.
I just thought it was fun that it was these teeth.
And meanwhile, I just was like, oh, this is why that reviewer gave us 3 stars.
Stub.
This is why that reviewer gave us 3 stars.
I mean, we're gonna get another 3-star because we talked about Star Trek.
Oh my god, I know. We talked about Star Trek, and I took us down this random ass rabbit hole. Anyway, Cole, you ready to break my heart?
Ready to go into the book? Ready to have some feelings?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Oh, hi, Austin. Austin's in chat. I was looking at Wikipedia and didn't see.
Yeah, I haven't been looking at the chat. Sorry.
Yes, there was Voyager talk.
Yes, there was Voyager talk.
Remember when Janeway and Paris are salamanders and have babies in the first season? What?
That is also a thing that happens. That is another infamous episode that is bad.
They can't all be winners.
But it is memorable because they just still talked about in the same way that Tuvix is. So maybe it was actually a success. And also, a weird, like, completely nonsense fact, that episode got nominated for some Emmys for, like, makeup effects.
That's bad.
One of the only nominations I think Star Trek ever had.
That's no
so
good.
weird.
That's no
that
good.
episode.
Anyway, we are too deep in this
my
episode to
gosh.
not already be talking about Republic
I love
Commando. So
I love it so much.
let's do this.
Man, Star Trek. I love Star Trek. And Star Wars, which is what we're going to talk about.
Well, we're actually going to talk about
Order 66 of Republic Commando novel, as it is officially titled, I believe. The prologue. The prologue. We are on Coruscant. It is 600 days after the Battle of Geonosis. And actually, I meant to look this up and I forgot. I was trying to remember, where did the previous book leave us timeline-wise? I don't know if I'll be able to figure that out real
I
quick.
think there was a bit of a jump.
There's a little bit of a jump for sure, and then in these 3 chapters, it jumps several more times.
Yeah, it
Like
does.
we get several time jumps. So I was like, I feel like we were like 400 something days, maybe. So I feel like it's been maybe like even 6 months, possibly.
Sure. Your guess is as
Don't
good as
remember for
mine.
sure,
Yeah.
but you know. Whoops. Nothing catastrophic broke there. It's fine.
Happens to the best of us.
So yeah, on Coruscant, 600 days after the Battle of Geonosis. So we're like, we're approaching 2 years, which we actually get that in these chapters too.
Right.
But we were in the head of Barden Juzik, who is now no longer a Jedi, no longer a member of the Order at the very least. He might still kind of be a Jedi. He's gone Ahsoka. He's no longer a Jedi.
Yeah, no longer a Jedi, but definitely still a good guy.
Yeah. He has gone full Mando, as it were, and he's just walking the streets, and he encounters another young Jedi, or whatever you want, however you want to phrase it. He's no longer a Jedi, but another Force user who's young. He doesn't know him specifically, and and the guy ends up confronting him, asking him how he could possibly leave, how he betrayed them in the middle of the war, and Juzik just throws it back in his face, basically.
Well, it's hard because it's like, he's right. Why are you booing me? I'm right. Like,
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
he's again, I don't always, people think Karen Traviss doesn't have a great depiction of the Jedi for a reason. But I mean, it's very clear that this guy kind of leaves like rattled. He's like kind of thinking like, oh, well, you might have a point there. Like, because Juzik goes on to say like, how are you still here? How are you still doing this? This is against every tenet of the Jedi Order that we've been taught about.
Yeah, it's very similar to how like Zay reacted in a way.
Yeah.
Where Zay's like clearly, shaken and not comfortable with the situation, but also isn't willing to like completely step out of it like Barden is. So yeah, it's it gives you a really good glimpse into Juzik's mindset in all of this. Like I said, he's gone completely native, as it were. He's gone full Mando, wearing full armor and everything, and that's something that they mention. The young Jedi senses him,
but
and then realizes it's the guy in the Mando armor, and he's like, "What the heck?"
I thought that was funny. It was nice.
So
good little touch.
Nice moment. That's basically the whole little prologue. Is just this little confrontation, and like I said, we don't even get this Jedi's name. I don't think we ever know who this is. It's just some random Jedi in the Order who probably gets killed at the end of this book.
Definitely gets killed at the end of this book. Although, I don't know, Legends has quite a few stragglers.
It's true. It's true.
Maybe not.
Maybe not, but more than likely, When you look at the kill ratio, there's a very good chance he didn't make it.
Statistically, he's dead.
Even if, 100 Jedi survived, that means thousands died. So,
He's probably still not one of them.
Yeah. So, that's where we start the book off. Real just, adrenaline pumping stuff. Right from the get-go.
It was still hard hitting. I know you're being facetious,
tense.
But it was.
It is very tense. Just this conversation.
It is. I'm just like, man, I'm glad I'm not in this. I'm glad I'm not having this conversation right now.
Yeah, you feel bad for this young guy because like I said, he doesn't know anything. He's just like, you're the Jedi that left. What happened? What's going on? And Barton's just like, no mercy, just going straight in. It's like, you're supporting a slave army, man. How can you do this? This guy's like,
But see, also, I think it's
doing
important.
What's right?
I also don't think that this guy's inherently bad either. I think that's
exactly
important to note. It's like, and I don't think he's written as inherently bad, because he very clearly is thinking about what he's doing. And you get characters like Zay. I wouldn't call Zay a bad guy at all.
No.
But he just doesn't. He doesn't know what else to do. He doesn't know how he can change it. Barden is just willing to say, "I'm not doing this anymore."
I mean, he's looking at it, the greater good, as it were. He's like, it's like we're fighting a war, to save the galaxy, and sure, the methods we're using aren't the best, but it's worth the sacrifice.
And plus, I mean, I don't think it is. I don't think it's worth nothing. that Jusek has somewhere to go.
It's
You
true.
know what I mean? Like, I think Jusek has somewhere to go, so his landing when leaving the Order was easier than it could have been. Whereas if
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi left the Jedi Order, what does he do?
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it's
Very true.
Or if
Very
Zay
true.
left the Jedi Order, what does he do? It's definitely not as cut
Yeah,
and
who
dry.
had these like connections outside of it.
Exactly.
Most of them don't. Most of them, their whole life is the Jedi Order, and Jusek has just happened to have made all these connections, and
That did
is
show him.
what led him to make
Exactly.
these decisions. But also, if he had been in the Order on his own, never met these guys, but still ended up having these moral compunctions about it, would he have still made the decision? That's very difficult to pin down.
I personally don't think he would have. I don't want to get too hung up on this because if you look back at, like, he is so just awestruck by the Mandalorians, right? And the Commandos when he first meets them. It's like if he felt any of that towards like higher ranking masters or something, he would always do exactly what they said.
Yeah,
He's got that
and he probably did because he was Zay's apprentice. Like,
Right.
I mean,
Right.
that was probably, Zay probably held that position in his life for a long time until, he met Scarada and these commandos and, formed these other bonds.
Right, and I don't mean to
realized-
imply that he's thoughtless or whatever. Like, he's a really good character. I do like him a lot. I just think that it's the right combination of factors that led him to leave the Order. He had opportunities that a lot of other Jedi didn't.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, prologue done. Oh, we mined this for so much nonsense.
We really kind of did, though.
It's great. I love it. So, chapter 1, our opening quote for the chapter is Finn Shiza. He's appealing to clone Spar A02, so he's an alpha clone that deserted before the war even started.
Mm-hmm.
He left, and Finn Shiza's like asking him, "Hey, come be Mandalore, at least temporarily. Like, step into Fett's heirdom, take over, just to give Mandalorians someone to rally behind." And we only see the one side of this conversation, so we don't really know but this is also laying the foundation of some like big retcons for Legends in the comics, where Boba Fett showed up way earlier than he should be able to show up.
Oh, okay.
This is laying the foundations for some of that stuff, which I find fun.
Okay.
But
okay.
it's definitely like some of the nonsense people talk about that Legends does.
I don't know the specifics, but I know where this is going. I have an idea.
We'll probably get into it more because we're gonna definitely see some more of this going forward. So I'll try to dig into it a little bit more because I don't even know all the specifics. I've just read the Wikipedia continuity.
Sure. Okay.
Bits, but yeah, fun stuff. And we are 50 years before Geonosis now. We're jumping all over the timeline here.
No.
We're on Mest Cavoli, is the planet, I believe, if my handwriting can be believed. And we meet fallen Matron, who we don't know who it is immediately.
Well, it's not told, but I know who it was immediately. I just had a feel. I'm like, it's a gut feeling. I know who this is.
And he's running, and he collapses, and we find out that his father, whatever you want to call it at this point,
His
Moonin Scarada.
His Faja? Can we call him the Faja? Those stupid movies, man. I cannot stop talking about Austin Powers, and I hate it. Sorry, please continue.
Yeah, Moonin Scarada is forcing him to run, doing exercises. And I think it is just like training. He's like just doing training regimen and is just forcing him to run and keep going. And little Fallen hates it so much. Hates everything so much because he's in so much pain, struggling so hard, trying his best and just not getting there. And he finally like forces himself up, runs a little bit further, and then collapses and literally can't get up. At which point Moonin relents, picks him up, and comforts him. It's like, you did good, boy. You did good.
Not what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like These Mandalorians.
These Mandalorians, man.
Never know what to
Dad
expect.
feelings, right?
Yeah, never know what to expect out of them.
Yeah, it turns out like it feels like Moonin is almost like he's like a combination of Val and Scarada in a way.
Yeah.
Where he's got like this super intensity, but then like when he switches into like full father mode.
Right, and it's like I don't even like it is, don't get me wrong, like definitely abusive to treat your child like that. But at the same time, like reading it in this fictional universe, it didn't even really feel that way, did it? It was kind of weird, like this
Not
kind
really,
of
no.
lovingly, like I'm gonna push you to be as good as you can be. But when I see you really are struggling, I will be your father figure. Like I don't know, it just felt very it was a complicated moment, moment.
Yeah. So we get some exposition in here about what happened to him about a year ago. His parents got killed in the war on this planet, or on a different planet, actually.
Kuwat?
I think it was Kuwat, yeah.
Kuwat, yeah.
Yeah, his parents were fairly well off, like, but got killed like in a bombing or some sort.
Yeah.
House got bombed, they got killed, and he found his parents' bodies, and the only thing he got off his father was his knife, the titular, the 3-sided knife, as it were. And that's the only thing he did. And then he survived for a year on his own in the rubble of the city until he was found by one Moonin Scarada, who, seeing this tenacious little kid who had survived for this long, and thought was like,
we gotta have you.
He's Mando material. He's Mando material. And he says that him and his missus, as he says, they wanted to have kids but hadn't had it yet. And I'm like, well, we'll just do the Mando way. Adopt, raise them. And as you said, he's basically just pushing him to be as strong as he can be, push through anything. It's like push you to your limit so you can survive anything. And it does feel like Waylon Val's like, training philosophy. It's like, hey, I was only hard on them boys, so I know they could survive anything. And look at them. They're surviving.
See, that's the thing, though, where it's like, I never got it. I don't know. I don't need to explain. I know what you're saying.
You don't get the dichotomy with Val. Like, there's moments where you get the warmth, or like, you understand the warmth is there, but it's buried very, very deep.
It's very deep. And
whereas Moonin, like, he switches. He's got this flip where he just goes full on affectionate, everything that you expect. You see Cal, doting on his boys,
which is funny too, because it's like, I don't know. There is something to be said for, Val, and how the fact, Delta is one of the only squads that it was decanted together. They're all still together. But
and his squads, like, across the board, have the highest, like, survival rates.
Sure, but at the same time, it's like it's not like Cal has a terrible survival rate.
No, it's true. So absolutely true.
I don't know. It just makes you wonder.
You look at it, but you literally look at Omega's founding. It's 3 lone survivors from Cal's units and 1 from Val's.
Yeah,
it's like looking at it, like, it's literally the foundation of their team is you're seeing it. But I'm not arguing with you, but you know what I mean.
No, I know.
Yeah. So it is interesting seeing like these, like, this interesting dichotomy in Cal's father figure.
Yes.
And we see at the end of this, and Moonin calls him Cal, which is Mando for Blade, and Kalika.
Yeah.
Little Blade.
Of course.
And at the end of these chapters, after, waking up in a nightmare of, his parents dying again, because that's what he does basically every night, and, being comforted by Moonin, full stop, like, just holding him, comforting him until till he's good. He's like, you know what? I could be Cal Scarada. Yep. That's all right. And, origin story complete, basically.
Yeah, really, it's like this one chapter, right? And it's like, okay, done.
Yeah. So that's Cal's origin. Now we've come full circle, as it were. We've met the man. We know how he got to where he is, and we see them push forward. Chapter 2, And our quote at the beginning is a Mandalorian rhyme, which I did not write out or anything. I'm not going to try to recite it or anything,
But
but it's fun.
it is the
Is it from something specific?
yeah, I don't think it's from something, but I believe it's the one that features the line Ali Dorisha Taldian, which is
Oh,
the
that
name
probably
of
is
from
true.
book. It's from the Book of Boba Fett soundtrack. Uses that, and it's like whenever he's having his religious experience in the desert, it's the
Yeah.
song that's playing, and it's just I think it's some of the best Star Wars music there is. I love that track. I love that track, and it's just one of those like I don't know. I
Wait,
love that
No,
people are
it's not in that. It's not in that, but we did get that in these chapters.
okay. I got confused then, but I just love that people are still mining
Mhm.
Karen Travis's Mandalorian language. Like Mandoa is still, it is what it is. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like she did all the work to create this language. Why would we change it? There's no reason
Mhm.
to.
Absolutely. It's beautiful, beautiful stuff. Like, and the one you quoted, that's the family is more than bloodline.
Yes,
Love it.
it's
And I think it's Jusic that says it, that maybe says that or something.
okay.
At one point, he definitely gets referenced in these chapters because I'm like, yes, I love. That's one of those ones that sticks in my brain.
I know it stuck out to me. I'm like, oh, I love this. I love everything about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, family is more than bloodline. And our location and time frame, we're now at the Coruscant barracks, and it is 736 days after Geonosis. So we've jumped forward like another 150 days
Like
nearly.
yeah. We are closing in.
And this is very specifically the second anniversary of the Battle of Geonosis.
Right.
So 2 years exactly after Geonosis, and we find Scorch and Sev. They're in the barracks, and they happen to spot Cal and Val off in the distance talking, it seems like, but they're not sure what's going on because they can't read their lips because they're really good at that.
Yeah.
And it seems like they're like reciting something, then they're not sure what's going on. And after, speculating for a few minutes, they're like, fine, we're just going to go talk to them.
Go over there.
And when they get there, it's like, oh, they're reciting the names of all their dead commandos.
Yeah.
Because it's the anniversary of Geonosis. So they're reciting like over 1,000 names of lost commandos. And respectfully, they join in.
Very unexpectedly emotional moment too. It's
Mhm.
like, it's just there's something about knowing that Cal and Val have this very mostly hate relationship, but begrudging respect. They still come together and do this.
Yeah.
As two of the Mandalorians who trained them. You're just like, this culture, these people are bigger than I am. You know what I mean? It's like if I hated this guy so much, I would not be here talking to him this way.
Yeah, but they're sharing this very solemn occasion. And like I said, 7 Scorch join in, and then by the time they're done, like about 100 other commandos have joined them too. All just reciting all these names for like, I think it says like 20 or 30 minutes. They're going on and on. Just very somber, very just no nonsense. And even like saying, like a lot of times repeating the same names over and over because a lot of them have the same nicknames because they're based on their numbers. Makes a lot of sense, but it's also like, ooh, that's got to feel so weird.
Yeah.
And they also, they very specifically mentioned that Phi gets mentioned.
Yeah.
Even though they very well know he's not dead.
Now, I can't remember. Does Delta know he's not dead?
I think it's one of those things that they don't know 100% sure, but they're nearly sure he didn't.
They're fairly confident that he's not dead.
Yeah.
Because I thought there was some chatter about that too, where it's like they mentioned Phi's name, but pretty sure he's not actually dead.
Like that's weird, and that Scarada and Val don't even flinch when they do it. But yeah, because there's also talk. I don't remember if it's specifically here, but at some point there's definitely that 7 Scorch. They believe that Cal got Kosai and got her information. Again, they don't have any kind of confirmation or official word on that, but they're pretty sure that that's what happened here, and so they also speculate on what would that mean. What are they doing with that? Are they just trying to get rich? What's going on?
Well, Cal did lead to her death inadvertently.
It's very true. It's
but
very true.
he did not kill her.
Put her in the position where
Yes.
she ended her own.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and Seven Scorch, they talk about a lot of stuff, wondering about, everyone's loyalty, especially the Gnolls. Like, are they gonna stick around? Are they really loyal to the Republic, or are they just loyal to Cal? And I'm like, they're just loyal to Cal.
Yeah.
It's like if he decided to go AWOL, they'd just go with him, and there would be no questions about
There's
that.
a reason they wanted to put those Gnolls down. They're not.
Mhm.
They are not up to snuff regarding
They
loyalty.
are not loyal to the Republic.
No.
They do not care at all about Chancellor Palpatine,
No,
the commander in chief.
still in awe at how they were written to be like, okay, they're all clones, but the Gnolls, like in my head, they're taller, they're bulkier, they're just scarier in
Like
every.
voided out clones.
Yeah, exactly. Just like if Dirge was a clone, you know. They just seem huge, and the fact that they are just so barely restrained at all times. I don't know.
Mm.
She did a good job of making them seem like something else.
Feel like a force of nature.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. So Cal, Val, they make their exit, and they meet up with 2 other of the Mandalorian trainers, who I'm gonna try to say their names. Wadi Tahani,
Okay. I don't
and
remember
Midge
them.
Gillimar.
Yeah.
Gillimar, I do remember, and I know their name more or less. They were 2 other trainers, and they're meeting up with them for some reason. But Scorch and Sever just speculating like, that can't be good. More of them around. What does that mean? Typical. And it's mentioned that Wadi or Tehani, however you say his name.
Sure.
He has a bronzium spear and a Beskar flute that are both
Beskar.
deadly weapons.
The best. That was very funny. Whenever that line about the flute being a deadly weapon, I was like,
I mean, it's made of Beskar, man.
yeah, it's just one of those like anything's a weapon if you hit somebody hard enough.
Exactly, especially for a Mandalorian.
True.
Just stabbing someone in the eye with a flute. It's pretty awesome, actually. I'm like, I hope that comes up at some point, but I don't remember if it ever does.
I almost like it better as it
just
just the threat of it always
just
being
flavor.
there. Flavor, exactly. It's like,
yeah.
Oh, I'd love to hear the story about how he killed somebody with his flute.
Wonderful. And poor Scorch, he anytime like questions about the future come up, he's like, I just don't want to think about it. It makes me uncomfortable thinking about the future. Because he's always like, it leads to questions that I don't have answers to and don't have the power to do anything about, and that makes me feel bad.
Understandably
so he just tries not to.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
He just shuts it out because that's kind of what Val raised them to do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
That's like the downside.
One of many.
The repression. Poor Sev.
Yeah. Oh God, Sev.
Yeah. So now we're across Coruscant, Galactic City, and it's the next day, and we're following Treasury Agent Bethany Winnan,
right?
Our favorite. She's
I forgot
wonderful.
all about this part. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Not forgot about it, but you know what I mean. Wasn't thinking about it.
And we're reminded that she's in fact a spy on the Republic. She's stealing information from the Treasury Department, straight about, Palpatine, whatever the clone stuff's going on, and she's on her way home and is being followed. And does her best to shake her tail, but this guy's pretty good, very, very savvy about everything. And when she ends up kind of accidentally going down a bad alley where there's not really any way out, she pulls her blaster on the guy, but before she can really do anything beyond that, there's Ordo. In swoops Inaka with a speeder truck, and they just dump the guy and fly away.
Ooh.
And turns out, the guy's Republic intelligence.
After
him. And they're following her mainly because she met with that Senator Skeena, I believe.
Yeah,
I believe that's the right name. again, he's the one that's been like talking about, downsizing the war and everything. So her talking to him was suspicious.
Right.
But turns out that's really the only thing they have on her, so it's not that serious. But
Right.
the
It's
fact that they're
more of
looking
a
at her is like, oh, we don't need the attention.
no. No.
But poor Republic intelligence agent is not gonna make it out of this.
No.
Ordo is not one to take prisoners.
No, he's not. I didn't actually know she had an image on her Wikipedia page from the Essential Reader's Companion.
I don't know that I've ever looked it up either, actually.
I feel like I definitely have. I feel like this might have been added later. Or somewhat recently. I don't know. Not important. No, it was literally added 10 years ago. I guess I haven't ever looked it up.
Huh. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen that either.
Anyway.
Cool.
Essential Reader's Companion is one that I've kind of avoided since it summarizes a lot
Everything.
of stuff. Yeah, so I'm just like, I want to flip through this and read it so bad, but I also don't.
Also, don't want spoilers for the few things that you don't know about.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So poor intelligence agent just doing his job, but Ordo don't care. He's threatening his girl.
And
as soon as he gets his information, he caps him.
That was also, this spins off into some of the more interesting content. These were good chapters, I want to say, but this spins off into some of the more interesting parts of this chapter. That whole like Bethany just being in shock at the fact that and not fully understanding why she's in shock. It's like she knew Ordo killed people, and it's just like the fact that her
the
life
immediacy of seeing it right there.
The fact that her life was kind of in danger. She's never had somebody, and the fact that Ordo just killed him so easily was just like bam, done, and then justifies it with like, hey, that's the kindest thing I could have done for him. We couldn't let him go. We could not let him go. Obviously.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
The cold efficiency of a null arc.
No, and it's scary. Because I don't think that he would ever hurt Bethany, right? But you can't, when someone has that in them, you can't help but wonder and worry. That's like
this very just dangerous individual.
He's a very dangerous individual, right? So I don't know. Yeah,
that is a little bit of a terrifying thought.
It is. It is just this very kind of realistic and just heavily written section that I really enjoyed. Is enjoyed the right word? I don't know, but thought it was really good.
Yeah, just the very real, like almost PTSD or shock. They give her just immediately like, yeah, this is a very serious thing that just happened, and and Ordo afterwards is like, oh man, I should have at least told you to look away, because
I know,
how thoughtless of me.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I should have told you to look away. Like, he's still so well mannered, and there's so much killing and death in these books, and it's easy to get desensitized to it because it's all made up. Like, you don't have to feel every death personally. It's fine. But she was just like, oh, you thought you were gonna get away the whole time being desensitized to all this death? No, I'm gonna make you feel it. Like,
there's consequences
from Bethany's point of view. Yeah, Karen Travis.
Yeah, exactly. Like putting us in her head makes it work.
Yeah, Karen Travis.
Because if you were doing it from Ordo's POV,
whatever,
you wouldn't even blink about it. But putting us inside Bethany's head, it's like, oh gosh, she's never dealt with this kind of stuff. Even though she's very aware of it, being aware of it and experiencing it are very different things.
Two different things.
So they return to her apartment, and Ordo's immediately like, hey, you want dinner? That's Ordo. He's hungry.
She's like,
she's like, no, I just need some calf. And over dinner, he's like, oh, you need to go to Mandalore. It's not safe for you here anymore. But obviously she's like, no, I'm not just going to run away. I have to still be useful here and do stuff while you guys are still in danger. She doesn't feel like she can't just run away from the problem.
Right.
And she's like, I'm not really in that much danger. Like you said, the guy, he was only looking at me because I talked to the senator. They don't know anything else about what I've got going on. And you forged a report that'll make it look like everything's cool. It's gonna be fine, probably. Looming Order 66 foreknowledge, making everything real dangerous.
Everything is, because even someone who's a separate and loyal to Cal as Ordo is. I don't know. Maybe that's all worrying for nothing. Maybe. Like, maybe that's not where the crux of the conflict is going to lay. But I don't know. Haven't read it. So I'll have to shut up and get to it.
Just knowing what this book is leading to, everything has this air of danger about it. No matter how you look at it. It's like every single character is on the chopping block, potentially.
I know.
So, sort of Damocles just dangling, waiting to drop.
They really are they? There's no one that has to survive. There is no one.
No. Well, yeah, I guess so. I was going to say, I guess technically some of the deltas, but even the game actually doesn't go past Order 66. So, yeah.
I don't know, man.
Because they're the only like pre-existing characters, really.
Right. And I actually don't know their fate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So,
I was like, where does the game actually end, like timeline wise? I know it's like close, but I don't think it goes past any of that. So, yeah.
I do know, unfortunately, through my own research, like an idiot, someone makes it out of the book. There's one character I know that makes it out of the whole series.
Yeah.
And dies at another later time in the way that Luke Skywalker died in the Legacy comics. Where, it's like Luke Skywalker.
He's definitely dead. We don't know how or when.
Or when he died peacefully of old age, probably. But, yeah. But he's not alive anymore. That's that kind of thing.
Oh, boy. So, Destiny refuses to leave, and then Ordo's like, oh, I meant to give you this to you a long time ago, but time never seemed right, and gives her the jewels that Val had given him. It's like, hey, give this to your girl. She'll do him justice. And it's the like super expensive, very valuable, I forget, Sharoni gem, I think is what it's called.
I'll try to see if I can find it.
I think that's right. Super like crazy valuable with like, I think he says like 10 million credits or something. And of course she's just like, I can't take this. People will ask questions if I have this.
Well, yeah, of course they would.
And he's like, and doesn't Cal need the money? And he's like, you deserve to have something nice. And I think they maybe end up settling on like she's gonna keep one of the smaller gems on it, and maybe the other ones will, be bankrolled basically. But
sure.
And then of course, because it's Ordo, he's like, and yeah, do you want to get married? And she's like, yeah, I do want to marry you. He's like, okay, well, let's just do it. Because that's how Mandos do it.
Yeah.
And he just takes her hand, is like, says the Mandalorian wedding vow. It's like, repeat it. And they do. He's like, all right, cool. We're married now.
We're done.
We're done. He's like, glad that's taken care of. That's been kind of weighing on me.
That's kind of funny.
And I love that she's also like kind of in shock about that. It's like, wow, that's not how I imagined my wedding going at all. But
no. Oh boy.
Sweet moment though. Sweet moment.
It was.
Oh, well, they are now bonded forever.
But at the same time, it's like it does feel this weird like I don't feel like that's what she wanted. I feel like I don't think she's necessarily unhappy with it. But, like, Ordo was raised a certain way. Ordo was raised as a Mandalorian. Bethany was not. And I just kind of think that, like, it almost felt... I definitely don't think Ordo was, like, taking advantage of her. I don't think he was intentionally doing that in that situation at all. That's not where I would have done it. Because Bethany was very clearly still rattled from...
Yeah.
I just... Definitely. I get it. He's out doing stuff in the galaxy and can't be there to do it whenever he wants. I understand that, but it's also just it felt very weird. It felt very kind of like, foxhole romance kind of thing where they're both obviously they're committed to each other, but I don't know. I didn't have a great feeling leaving that sequence, and I wanted to.
Yeah.
Nothing like Fi and Parja, not to jump ahead too far. I do love those. I do like those too.
Yes. We'll be getting to them.
We'll get there.
immediately, basically.
Oh,
Yeah. So chapter 3, and our quote. Let me see. Yeah, it's a quote from like a news program about how there's so much information available to everyone at all times, but nobody consumes any of it. So we're just deliberately ignorant, basically. And he's like, if there was only just a tiny fragment of information about our history, we would all just know it. But
right.
because of how much stuff is available, everyone's just like, it's not even worth trying.
Hmm.
It's a very interesting bit.
Yeah. When was this written?
You
It
know,
feels
like
very.
2008.
It feels very prescient of her.
It does indeed, doesn't
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It feels like it's got some modern day commentary.
Yeah, yeah. It's amazing how some of this stuff sticks around.
Yeah,
And we've jumped ahead again because this book just doesn't stop.
doesn't stop.
It
It's
is
almost
now.
like it's almost like she was writing. It was realized, oh my god, I have spent far too much time. Like they're telling me to wrap this series up. I've spent far too much time in the Clone Wars. I gotta move along.
We got to pick up the pace. We got to pick up the pace. So we're now on Mandalore, and it is now 937 days after Geonosis. Another 6 months later.
Yeah.
Just boom, 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 boom. Here we go. And we are picking up with Fi, and he is in the marketplace. I forget what the name of the city is.
I do too.
It's a small city. I thought I wrote it down, and I probably did somewhere.
I'll
but I
find
don't see
it.
it now.
I'll find it.
I don't
Keep
see it
moving.
now. Oh, in Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. He's waiting for Parja in the market on Ansari, or in the Ansari market on Mandalore. There it is. Terminology. And he's waiting, and he got there. Everything's fine, but he's making tons of progress with his recovery. He can now walk and get around. He has like a walking spear he carries to help him get around because it's not as emasculating as a walking stick or a cane or anything.
Yeah.
So he's waiting, looking around, and we're in full Mando armor, obviously, and basically everyone is because it's Mandalore, and that's just how things are. And a random stranger asks him if he needs any help because turns out emblazoned on his helmet are the medical term or medical like initials for like
Yeah.
walking wounded, basically.
Yeah.
That
That's
he's got
like
some kind of brain
a
injury.
brain injury. Yeah.
Yeah. And which is like, just tells anyone that talks to him. If they see it, they know exactly what it means. So it's very smart.
Can I say something? I
Mhm.
feel like there's this idea that the Mandalorians are all tough and very just
Macho.
And it's like, if you'll allow me to use some tongue-in-cheek internet parlance, this is a very woke moment for the Mandalorians to be like, hey, be kind to this guy. Like, he has fought, we need to respect him. And it's like, I say that it kind of jokingly, but it's true. Like, we look at Cal's relationship with his clones, his relationship with Moon and Scarada, his own adopted father. And it's like, there's actually so much emotion in this culture. And I feel like it's something that I've been robbed of, having not read these books, because don't get me wrong, I love the badass Mandalorian stereotype as much as the next guy, but this is a whole other level that they have a deep, deep respect for veterans. And immediately this guy picks up on, oh, okay, I've got to adjust the way I'm talking to you. That's totally fine.
There's a couple of instances of that happening in this little chapter.
Yeah.
That happened. Like this guy's like, hey, sees him like kind of like looking around, like making sure he's where he's at. And he's like, he sees the emblems on his head. He's like, hey, you need help or anything? Are you cool? And Fi's like, yeah, I'm good. I'm waiting for my girl. And he's like, hey, I'll wait with you. It's cool. Just make sure everything's cool.
It's just a very nice situation.
Very wholesome.
It was.
Random stranger. And it's weird because like they almost imply that this guy is somebody, maybe.
Yeah.
Because there's a bit of like, Fi feels like he should be familiar with him.
Should know him.
And I don't remember if this even comes to anything, honestly. It's like one of those things, I don't remember if this is a thing. Like, I almost thought that maybe this was Finn Shiza, and then he shows up again later, but they don't say it's the same.
Yeah,
I feel like Fi would have mentioned that at least. But it's one of those things like, is this somebody we know, or are we supposed to know, or... I don't know.
That's an interesting question. I kind of tuned that out. I forgot about that.
because he mentioned something about him like seeming familiar, like he should know who he is or something. And like I said, it might come to something in the next chapter. I don't remember honestly.
We'll
But
see.
like I said, it's a super wholesome thing that happens. And it's oh, this is so nice.
It is very
And then
nice.
as soon as Parja comes walking up, like the guy sees him, like, "Hey, is that your girl?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, well, I'll be on my way. Take care of yourself." Leaves, and
Gone.
then Parja walks up. A few seconds later, is like, "Oh, you're making friends." And Vi's like, "Yeah, I guess." Random weirdo. And Parja's great. She's just, I think we already met her at least briefly.
Yeah, she was briefly in the last one.
Yeah, but she's been at his side basically the entire time through his recovery, doing everything, just helping him, pushing him to keep getting better. And Fi just doesn't understand it, but loves her, but also feels just so inadequate, which is so sad.
I know. That's what I was saying. The stuff with Fi was really what kind of hit me emotionally. Like, I know Sev is kind of balking at reading off all the names of his. I remember there's a bit where he's got a bit of an introspective moment whenever they're reciting the names of the commandos who died, and then Jusik, with his conversation with the Jedi. There's so much heavy hitting stuff. This is what stood out to me the most, this stuff with Fi, because it's just like, it says so many good things about at least small town Mandalorian culture.
Yeah.
And when you've been told by all these people on the internet, it's like, aren't you guys all just supposed to be shooting each other all the time? Isn't that what you do for fun? And to be fair, sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
But in this case, no. And it comes up later with the woman in the inn or the bar, the cantina. Same thing. Does the same thing. Is kind of annoyed and is like, oh, I see that there's something going on here. We gotta adjust our conversation. Yeah, just very nice that happens not only once but twice.
Yeah, twice. It's like, oh, it isn't just this one guy happened to be nice. Like, oh, it's just kind of like part of the culture.
Part of the culture
everyone's just aware. And it's like, oh,
to be fierce in everything, including being polite, loving each other. I mean, because Parja, I'm getting ahead of myself. Sorry, like I said, I just really enjoy. We're
talking about Parja
chapter.
and Fi's relationship here. That's
because she's so. It's heartbreaking if you'll let me jump ahead a little. It's heartbreaking whenever they're talking about how she's always loves to fix stuff and she loves fixing things. And Fi has this, if I remember correctly, has that moment of like, well, what if I get fixed? Like, are you still gonna, And she's just like, shut up, you absolute buffoon. Like, that is not at all. Like, you don't need to. I don't know.
That's not the point. And the Fi can't help but think that way, unfortunately. And he's like, she never even knew me before.
Right.
And she's only known me as this like broken husk of myself. And he's like, he just can't get it out of his head that, at some point it's like, this dream is going to end. She's going to leave at some point, whatever. But, you could tell she's in it for the long haul for sure.
And it sucks because Fi was, I don't know, was Fi the most likable member of Omega?
Probably him or Darman.
I think Darman has the sweetness factor. Darman is just a very nice guy, but Fi's funny.
I mean,
if you ask me,
the funny, wisecracking guy with also this like dark undercurrent, unfortunately, of like, aware of his mortality and everything.
Right.
And that is like hitting as hard as it could.
But I do like there's a little moment where he is talking to Parja and he cracks a little joke. And
she's like, hey.
Yeah.
There's that one I've been told about.
Yeah.
And he has like a moment where like he says like a really like long sentence with like complicated terms and everything in it. And it's like hit this moment of like lucidness or whatever you want to call it. Where it's like,
I feel like I'm me.
And he's like, he mentions that, Scrod always said that he had the gift of gab, was always just talking too much. And then now he's like, his brain's there, but he can't make it come out the way he wants to. And it's like, so sad.
It's so sad
because we experienced it for like 2 whole books.
Yeah,
nearly 3 whole books.
I was gonna say then a large portion of a third, but at the same time, it's so. You see him get better. We're seeing him get better, and a lot of time has passed. But in the grand scheme of things, especially if they find a way to slow down the aging, not that much time has passed. he'll lose a couple years to like real recovery and probably always be recovering some, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't know how long he's going to have, and that is what makes me the most sad about any of this, and that's why this chapter stands out to me the most, because it's like Ordo and Destiny know what they're getting into. Like this stuff with the Kosai's info might not work. They might not fix the aging, but Fi is getting better, and he's losing so much time. It's not like he's completely brain dead and they're keeping him alive and no change is happening. And his body's going to catch up with him eventually. He's actively losing time.
Yeah.
Are they all losing time? Let's see. Darman's losing time with his son because they're not. Niner is a freak. I have no idea what's going on with Niner.
Niner's like just a holding pattern, you know.
Yeah.
Trying to keep the squad together, trying to not to think too deeply about it.
I forgot we have to catch up with the squad. I'm getting ahead of myself on Fi and Parja, and we still have some bad news for the squad. I forgot it. It's on a cliffhanger. Damn it.
Yep. Sure does. Sure does.
Sorry, I've jumped way ahead, but you should be reading along with us anyway. You should all know that there's a cliffhanger at the end of these chapters, and we've made you wait for
there's always
about
a cliffhanger. Month. You know always that. A cliffhanger.
Yeah, you had to wait like a month to have it resolved.
But let's push on. Let's push on, as it were. So they get, like I said, we get to the bar. You mentioned that he goes up to the bartender and asks for like drinks and soup. And at first, the bartender seems kind of annoyed at like the way he asks or something, but then notices the sigils, like, oh,
never mind.
It's cool. It's cool. Good. We're good. You know, immediately softens, understands the situation. It's cool. It's great. And then also while they were walking in, they overheard some other patrons talking about him looking like somebody else. And he's like, they can't be talking about Fett. They didn't know Fett whenever he looked like me, really.
Yeah.
Because he was already pretty old, or older by the time that they would have known him. And Parger's like, no, they're talking about Spar, our rogue clone that Finn Shiza has been approaching about this whole being Mandalore situation. And wouldn't you know it, in walks Finn Shiza, who we know from
Shadows of Endor.
Which is fun.
It's funny because in Shadows of Endor, he's pretty unequivocally a good guy. We like him. Getting some weird vibes from him in this one.
Here you're like, well, because he immediately just comes right up to Fi, and he's like, hey soldier, want to do your part for Mandalore?
And I'm like,
and Parge like, get away from him.
You back off.
And you're already with Parge, so you're like, nah, get out of here.
Exactly. You spent all this time like really falling in love with her as a character, and then I'm like, Finn Shiza, sorry, dude. I liked you in Shadows of Endor. I'm sure you're cool, but whatever you're up to right now is I can't get behind.
You're getting bad Parja Vuju, so you know that's
no good.
That's bad. It's bad.
No good.
Unfortunately, that's the last we see of that for this reading. But we actually, I forget. There's one little bit where Fi mentions, where they ask him, she asks about marrying him, and he's like, yeah, definitely into that, but I want to recover some more before I want to be more myself before we commit to that.
Yeah.
And he's like, and after that, we can paint up my armor. I can stop looking like the ghost of Gez Hoken. Oh, which is, I forgot to mention earlier, I just remembered about it. In the flashback with Moon and Scarada, one of the other Mandalorians is Hoken. Is a Hoken.
Is a Hoken. Yeah, I caught that too.
Which I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's interesting that there's some at least familiarity there between the clans or something.
Well, see, it's funny too, because to me, it kind of feels like all the Mandalorians know each other.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
It's a pretty tight-knit community.
It feels like they all know each other. But maybe it's just the clans, like you said. It's like, oh, I know Clan Hoken.
Yeah, we aren't told who this specific Hoken is, but
even then, I can't even say that Gez Hoken sucks. I don't remember him sucking. He's just a separatist.
Yeah, he's working for the bad guys in that story, but in general, he's kind of pretty ruthless and such. Okay, but
yeah,
he's also he's a Mandalorian. He's got this honor and stuff about him. Like they kind of do a dirty trick on him at the end where they fake the guy's dying So
Yeah.
he'll come and like try to execute him
Yeah.
so they can kill him. But it's like,
Hey, now Fi's got this sick armor.
yeah, now Fi's got the sick red and
You,
black Mando armor.
you win some, you lose some.
So, yeah. So now we get to catch up with the rest of Omega, who we haven't even touched on yet. And they're on Hargab out in the mid rim. And they're just waiting on a convoy to show up. And the whole like situation on this planet just sounds like a typical like kind of a like Middle East scenario.
Yeah, that was
where they're
definitely the vibe that I
supporting the local government. And there's rebels.
Speaking of real world analogs,
yeah,
definitely the vibe that I got.
It totally tracks with Karen Travis's. She's like a war reporter and some stuff. So like, definitely her field as far as covering this kind of stuff.
It was only a matter of time, if we're being honest.
Yeah, totally. And it's like it's all human settlement. It's a desert. The rebels are like in tunnels and stuff. It's all very, 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 very similar.
Right.
But Omega, they're kind of just like killing time, waiting for this convoy to show up. They're literally like racing beetles in an ammo crate to pass the time.
That was
because they've got
funny.
nothing to do.
I thought it was very funny. They're racing the beetles, and then finally the one of them flies away, and it's like, why didn't you do that before? Feels like a very good,
metaphor for the elm.
I didn't even think about that. I was going for the whole, war is prolonged periods of boredom punctuated with brief periods of extreme terror. And it's like, what a mundane thought to have. Like, oh, why didn't he fly away? Whatever, And
as the metaphor of, it's the clones. Like, they have the total ability to go off and survive on their own. But they stay fighting. Just because it's what they do. It's like, ooh. Yee.
And what? You'll have to remind me. Maybe this is a stupid question. Is there a reason they're still fighting? Why haven't they gone AWOL?
I think they just don't want to desert yet until Cal's got the full
right, okay.
like escape plan. Well,
sure.
I think as soon as they go, the Republic would, clamp down on a lot of stuff. So he wants to have everything set up, ready to go, have them a hidey hole ready. I think that's the general
So it's more
plan on it.
Less out of loyalty, more out of we're still waiting. And we have to go on these missions because we get sent on these missions.
At this point, are all of them ready to leave? Hard to say. Like, Niner's definitely like, guys, we can't be talking about this.
Well, he quite literally said, like, is it this one he shuts them up? They're arguing about something.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just like, shut up.
Yeah, because Aten is like, hey, Lasima and I, we're going to get married, and we're going to, have a life. And ask Darman about it, and Darman's like, yeah. And he's like, kids? And Darman's like, not yet. And you're like, we cry. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's like, they're all having thoughts, and Darman, like, every day feels just like, why are we doing this? Why am I still here? I have a wife, or there's a life outside of this. Yeah. Why am I still fighting for something that I don't care about at all? And it's like, oh my gosh, the drudgery of it, and just doing it because you feel like you have to.
Whereas Niner still has nothing else.
Niner has nothing else, unfortunately. He's just got the squad, and now the squad's all... Fi's already gone, and the other ones are all, have other people, basically, except for Core.
Who's here now? Core's on a mission.
Now.
Yeah.
Core's on the mission. He's one of the guys now, which is great. We love Core.
Yeah.
So, it's tense. The squad's a little bit tense.
It is. It's not. I mean, you think back to Hard Contact, and it's like, oh, these guys all, it was all fun and games. Like, they never really felt like they were in any danger. They were just, like, coming in and they're cleaning up. I guess Niner threw himself on a grenade, right? So I guess there was some danger. Was it Niner or was it Fi?
No, Fi threw himself on the grenade.
Fi threw himself on the grenade, yeah. But even then, it's like, put a dent in the Katarn armor, whatever. You're fine.
Yeah.
Shake it off. But
and now same Fi has brain damage, and
now it's like these guys hardly even feel like they feel less like brothers, more like comrades in arms, right? I feel like just because they've developed as people, not because they're
Mm-hmm.
drifting away necessarily, but they all have different motivations. And this felt much more like a stereotypical like World War II Band of Brothers like downtime conversation
Mm-hmm.
than stuff like from Hard Contact, where they're pretty much talking about the mission or cracking
Yeah.
jokes about the mission, or their shared experience as clones. Now they're talking about other things, and I don't know, it's a lot.
Yeah. It's gotten way more real, as it were. Like you said, Hard Contact is very straightforward. There's a mission. It's all basically just military sci-fi action. Whereas now we're 3 books later, and there's so much more going on under the surface, and that's reflected in everything.
Mm-hmm. It
like
is.
They're both closer and further apart than they've ever been in weird ways.
I know, and that's what's interesting to me. I just am really kind of again impressed at the nuance in her writing. And granted, this isn't all stuff I'm all thinking about that while I'm reading, but as we talk about it, that nuance presents itself, and I think it's all supported by the text. It's not like we're reading into things that aren't there.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So the situation on Hargab is basically just a stalemate constantly, because the Republic hasn't committed enough troops to actually, do anything significant beyond keeping them at bay, and the rebels aren't strong enough to just wipe them out either. So it's just back and forth, tug of war.
A lot of questions of what are we even doing here?
Yeah, and that's what Darman's thinking the whole time. Is like, oh, Palpatine, such an idiot. It's like, we could win this war if we just committed things. And it's like, and Palpatine's actually way smarter than you think, but because this is exactly what he wants.
Oh, he's gonna win the war.
It's easy to win the war when you're both sides. At the
when
same
you're both
time.
sides, that's what I mean. He's gonna win the war twice somehow. Yeah, I don't know. Messed up.
So, yeah, it's not a good situation, but Omega's there specifically to assassinate the leader of the rebels, who seems like the main military strategist guy, which maybe will affect the situation more significantly, but probably not if we're being real.
Yeah, someone else will just step up and.
There is a fun moment where they the convoy finally arrives and they spot the rebel guy, and turns out he's wearing pieces of clone armor, and they're like, oh. It's kind of got a little bit personal now.
Yeah, suddenly this guy it's no longer just a job or a mission.
Yeah. Though, 2 shots later, he's just dead, and that's it. But
that's true.
And so that was a very short-lived rivalry that he never even knew about.
He didn't know what was happening.
Yeah. So, like I said, the convoy arrives, fighting breaks out, and for a little bit, the rebels and the natives, I don't know exactly. We don't know the exact situation. It's all a bunch of humans fighting on this planet. They're all fighting, and they're not supposed to intervene unless they see the guy they're supposed to assassinate, because that's really the only part of the mission. So they're just having to watch their side getting killed when they could intervene. This just doesn't feel good in any way. But they get the shot off, but unfortunately their position is compromised, and suddenly many more rebels come out of the woodwork than they thought were there, that intelligence thought was there. There's over 100 of these guys, when before there was 15 or 20.
15, yeah, where it's the odds go from a joke to actually impossible.
Yeah. It's oh yeah, fighting 20 guys, but when we're having this crazy armor, and they're just, dudes with blasters. Not that big a deal, but suddenly there's 100 of them. It's
not up on this hill, we won't. You know what I mean?
That's not great.
Maybe if they had the equipment, I'm actually fully confident if they had the equipment and the position.
Yeah.
They could do it, but
they're literally just up on a little rock,
side
with a
of a mountain.
Rifle.
Yeah, not happening.
And they know exactly where they are, and there's a bunch of them. It's oh, that's just great.
No good.
So yeah, that's where we leave Omega. Unfortunately, they're just in a bad situation.
And that was what I've been sitting with. What we've all been sitting with for the last.
Yeah, but that's not the end of the reading though. We still have to catch up with Scarada a little bit.
Oh yeah, briefly.
Which something I thought about earlier, but just now confirmed it. There's a weird thing that happens here in a little bit, but I'll get to that when it comes up. So back on Coruscant, Scarada and Gillimar and Mariel are meeting with a professor who's an expert in the aging process in humans.
Right.
And they're trying to get information on Kosai's research, or trying to like apply that research in the way that they need to. So they're hoping to give this guy a piece of the information that he can figure out what they need to figure out. And this guy's a big pompous jerk, basically. Who,
Yeah, not
like,
likable.
not very likable, and they're just like, whatever. And Gillimar is a medical person specialist, so talks the actual tech stuff with the guy, and seems like he actually knows what he's talking about, but also they don't like him at all.
Yeah.
Because he's not very likable. But, whatever. Seems like he's going to have, at least seems like he has the right knowledge base to be able, maybe to help him. And they've been farming out this information in little bitty chunks to a bunch of different people, hoping they can strike pay dirt. It's basically the situation. That's what they've been doing for months at this point, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe even like a year at this point.
Yeah,
it's been a long time since they got a hold of it.
We've been jumping around.
So, and we find out that Gillimar and Wadi, the other Mandalorian trainers, have been offered by Zay to train more regular clones in commando skills, to supplement their dwindling reserve of commandos, because that's just how war works, unfortunately. And they don't really want to do it, but Scarrad's like, please do it just so we have more eyes and ears in the system, basically.
Yeah.
It's like, the more people we have here that can, find out what's going on and have our ears to the ground whenever things go bad, hopefully we'll be informed enough to make our escape as clean as possible. So
again, it's very the forethought in Cal to be like, things are going to go bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just the fact that, well, of course, that's with all the info that's coming from Bessany and Etane and Jusek. So I mean, he just is, I don't know.
Yeah,
impressive.
And there's a specific bit of intel about like whenever the intel, when it was about to the 2-year point, there was intel suggesting like a year from now, a bunch of stuff is supposed to be ready, like the clone stuff and also the fleet stuff from Rathana.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of stuff that's like seems like it's coming in at the same time, so it seems like that's a pivotal moment. They just don't know exactly what it is, but it's like it's one of those things that us with foreknowledge as the audience know what that is. But it's interesting looking at it now. It's like, oh, Palpatine had it all nailed down, like when all this was going to happen. It's one of those things like, you don't think about that much, like, but he was pulling all the strings very specifically to make it all happen around the right time when all his pieces were in play. It's like, all right, do it.
I don't know. I'm still kind of in awe of his whole plan, but thinking about like, I still want to know how the initial order to like Quat Drive Yards and Rothana Heavy Engineering went in for the clones. Like what was the guys for that? Ordering,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Well, Bessany, like in the report, it's an order for like a bunch of lats, but the credit amount is more like for a bunch of like Star Destroyers.
Right. Right.
It's like, hey, we ordered some lawnmowers the other day. It turns out we actually ordered a bunch more tanks.
Yeah. Something
I have
like
questions.
That. Yeah. When you order,
the counting here just does not add up at all.
You order the John Deere riding mower and you get an M1 Abrams.
Yeah.
I hate it when that happens.
Well, no, you ordered one lawnmower. You got 1,000 M1 Abrams.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute. You got the quantity and the thing wrong by a lot. Like you said something about the decimal point in the wrong spot or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like a few places in the wrong spot. Oh my gosh. Talk about huge amounts of money.
Right.
And her being treasury expert is like, oh my gosh, how is all this happening?
How did Karen Travis make a treasury nerd interesting?
I don't know, but I love it.
I don't know how she did that.
It's like, who knew we needed that in Star Wars? But I'm so glad we got it.
Literally no viewpoint that I like. I don't know. I don't want to say there are no viewpoints that I like any less than the others in these books, but they're all They're all super interesting. which I think is kind of a rarity because usually there's at least like in like a three viewpoint book, like one of them might be kind of a slower one. And we've experienced that even.
Oh yeah.
But anyway,
plenty of times like, so okay, we're getting through this, but let's go back to the
let's
thing
go back
we
to what
really
we
like.
want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So here, we're coming up on the thing I was talking about. So they finished talking with the doctor or the professor guy, and they leave. And Muriel's like spots a confectionery place. He's like, I'm gonna go get some snacks, because the boys always want to be snacking. That's just what they're like. So Scrog's like gives him a wad of cash. Like, yeah.
That's very funny. This adult man, his dad just gave him a 20 to go buy snacks.
Go buy some cookies or whatever.
Yeah.
And while Muriel's doing that, he checks his messages and sees a bunch of messages. And this is where the weird thing I noticed come in. He sees the message from Ordo about Bethany and him getting married, and also the intel stuff. That happened 6 months ago. Based on the timeline stuff, like that was the previous chapter, and 6 months have passed.
So
I found that suspect.
I think that's a continuity error. There's no way that Ordo spent 6 months with Bethany and did not talk to Cal.
No.
Yeah, I think this was just an error that nobody picked up on.
Yeah, I just realized it. I was like, I thought about it while I was reading it, and I was like, I think I must have just misremembered where the time jump was, but this is literally the last thing in the chapters, and that time jump happened at the beginning of this chapter, so.
That's what you get for jumping around. Stuff gets thrown off.
Yeah. Yeah, so sorry if I pointed out a weird continuity error. I'm going to go look on the Wikipedia page later and see if it's on there. It's a weirdness. And it's like, I don't know where it happened. Like, is the 6 months jump supposed to happen later than this? Or was that other conversation supposed to happen now? I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, sorry about that, but that's a bit of weirdness I noticed, and now you all know it too.
I took a risk and looked at the continuity section for this page. Didn't get any spoilers. It's not there, as far as I can tell.
Okay, well that's very strange. I may have to put a thing on the EU subreddit later and see if anyone knows
See if
about
anyone knows anything. Yeah.
Oh boy. Anyway, so that message is in there. So he's like, "Oh, that's cool." Very happy about that, but also kind of in shock because that's just how Ordo does things, I guess.
Yeah.
But there's also another message that's even more important and relevant. He has a message from his estranged son saying that his daughter, who is not estranged, but he still hasn't heard from in a long time, has apparently been missing for like a month.
Yeah.
Or maybe longer. And they're asking him to help find her.
But that's a big thing if he's been disowned by his sons.
Yeah, and the fact that they actually came to him.
They came, yeah.
It's pretty serious. And like I said, his daughter did not disown him. So he's always harbored like a hope that maybe there's still something there.
Right. And it just makes you think that I don't know. I don't even know how. I don't know where this is going to go. Because he's so I don't know. I'm excited to read.
Yeah.
Don't have to wait.
Yeah, so Muriel gets back and Cal tells him, and Muriel's like, "Well, we got to go find her."
Yeah, that's my sister we're talking about. We've got to go find her.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anything for Papa Cal.
Anything for Cal Bweir.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. This was quite the episode. Ugh. Getting worn out.
Let's see. So, next time, 4 through 6. Just 3 chapters.
It's like nothing. But, I mean, it's probably the same
It's longer than this one. It's longer than this reading.
Okay. I'll allow it.
It is the longest reading. It is the longest reading of our sections here.
Okay. It's always kind of nice to know going into a long one that they won't be any longer than this. Well, anyway, it's getting late, old Peepaw Ben.
It is getting late. I need to go to bed.
Oh, right. Because, Cole, new job, new schedule. Everything's very weird. I'm still adjusting. But yeah, let's 4 through 6 for next time. Cole, until then, where can people find you on the internet?
I am at Mando Wraith, and then I'm on Skyhoppers podcast. Usually, I wasn't this week because of schedule stuff, but whatever. We're talking about Bad Batch recently because that is the thing that's on right now. So yeah, if you're interested, catch me there, wherever.
Yeah. This podcast exists on, well, kind of on Twitter, I guess. Cole looks at the Twitter. Obroa-Skai Pod. You can email us at obroaskywalkers@gmail.com. If you want to chat with us somewhere else, we're in the Skyhoppers Patreon Discord. Just $1 a month. You can go over there, hang out in our Discord, get special bonus stuff for Skyhoppers if that's something you're into. And we're both in that Discord pretty much all the time. I'm reading pretty much everything that comes through there. So that's a good place to get a hold of us as well. And yeah, I think that's everything. So, library patrons, please make your final selections. The library closes in 20 minutes.
Nice.
Okay. Stream.
Nice round, 2 hours and 12 minutes.
2 hours and 12 minutes. I hate this. I keep getting this error that says there's a problem saving the metadata, which of course doesn't actually affect my recording at all, but it's an error that scares me every time I see it, and I wish it would stop. But yeah, stream. Thanks for hanging out. I forgot to plug the YouTube stream. Damn it. It's fine. It's fine. Oops. We're still new, still learning that one. Okay, stream. Thanks for hanging out. You're going away now.